Captain James Harrington had dedicated his life to his country. Long deployments, sleepless nights, and the weight of responsibility had defined his career. His wife, Claire, had stood by him for years, navigating the challenges of military life with him. Or so he thought. Claire had always been supportive, writing letters during his deployments and sending care packages filled with his favorite snacks. But as the years passed, loneliness began to creep in. The silence of their home became deafening when James was away for months at a time. During one such deployment, Claire befriended a man named Daniel at the local gym. He was charming, attentive, and always willing to listen. What began as casual conversations evolved into long coffee dates and stolen moments. Daniel was everything James couldn't be while away, present, available, and unburdened by the demands of service. Claire wrestled with guilt, knowing the vows she'd exchanged with James. But as weeks turned into months, her emotional connection to Daniel deepened. She justified her actions, convincing herself that James's career had left her isolated. When James returned home unexpectedly for a short leave, Claire's world began to unravel. His sharp intuition picked up on the subtle changes. The way she avoided eye contact, her newfound tendency to guard her phone, and the emotional distance that had crept between them. One evening, after dinner, James finally confronted her. "Claire, what's going on? You're not the same." Caught off guard, Claire hesitated before confessing. Tears streamed down her face as she admitted to the affair, pleading with James to understand how lonely she had been. James's heart shattered, but his training taught him to remain calm under pressure. He said little, only asking her to leave him alone for the night. As he sat in silence, memories of their life together played like a movie in his mind. The love they once shared, the sacrifices he made, and the betrayal he now faced felt like a cruel twist of fate. In the days that followed, James made a decision. He would not let the betrayal define him. He focused on his work, throwing himself into his duties with renewed determination. Claire, realizing the depth of her mistake, tried to salvage their relationship, but the trust they once shared was irreparably broken. Their marriage became another casualty of the life James had chosen, a painful reminder of the sacrifices demanded not just by war, but by the toll it took on the lives of those left behind. Claire moved out of their home a few weeks after the confrontation. The silence she once dreaded now enveloped James completely. It was a stark, heavy quiet, but unlike Claire, he had no one else to turn to. His colleagues, loyal as ever, gave him space but offered support in subtle ways, grabbing drinks after long shifts or inviting him to join weekend outings. Yet, the void remained. Claire's absence was both a relief and a wound. James spent countless nights staring at old photos of their happier days, trying to reconcile the woman he once knew with the one who had betrayed him. He wasn't just angry, he was heartbroken. Meanwhile, Claire's relationship with Daniel was unraveling. What once felt exciting and new now seemed shallow and guilt-ridden. She realized too late that her affair had been a temporary escape from her loneliness, not a solution. Daniel grew distant, sensing her regret and the growing weight of their actions. Claire tried reaching out to James multiple times, sending long emails and leaving tearful voicemails. She apologized over and over, admitting she had made a terrible mistake. James read her messages but never responded. He didn't know if he could forgive her, or if he wanted to. Months passed, and James began to rebuild his life. He threw himself into physical training, earned a promotion, and found solace in his camaraderie with his fellow officers. Slowly, he began to rediscover the parts of himself that had been overshadowed by his devotion to both his career and his marriage. One evening, while at a charity event for veterans, James met someone new, Elena. She was kind, intelligent, and had a warmth about her that immediately put him at ease. Unlike Claire, she understood the demands of military life, having grown up in a military family herself. They struck up a friendship that grew naturally over time. As James and Elena grew closer, Claire's messages became less frequent. She seemed to sense that he was moving on, Though James still carried the scars of betrayal, he found himself opening up to Elena in ways he hadn't thought possible. One day, Claire showed up at James's door unexpectedly. Her eyes were red, and she held an envelope in her trembling hands. "James, I don't expect anything. I needed to give this to you," she said, handing him the letter before walking away. Inside, the letter detailed her deepest regrets and her hope that he could one day find happiness, even if it wasn't with her. She admitted that she had lost sight of who she was and had let her loneliness cloud her judgment. James folded the letter and set it aside. He didn't feel anger anymore, just a quiet sense of closure. Claire's betrayal had been devastating, but it had also taught him about resilience, boundaries, and the strength to rebuild. In the months that followed, James and Elena's relationship deepened. Though the scars of his past remained, they no longer defined him. For the first time in a long while, James felt a sense of peace, knowing he had found someone who truly understood and respected the sacrifices they both would need to make for the life they shared.